To Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow here on this Friday with you alongside Mo Patton, as I most normally am.
Except when you're not.
Except when I'm not, exactly. But looking forward to this Friday. We've got an absolute ton to talk about and try to get in before next week pretty much shuts us out of any topic that's not SEC football.
Exactly.
Just about. So this should be interesting, should be fun as we try to pack everything in. So, yeah, let's get right to it.
Get in, sit down, shut up, and hang on.
Hang on. Yeah. So how about we start real quick, right out of the gate. Yesterday's results, today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the rundown.
Friday Rundown is brought to you by Chip Walters of Exit Realty, Bob Lamb and Associates. The voice of the Blue Raiders also wants to be your trusted advisor in real estate. Contact Chip at 615-542-1915 or through his website at choosechip.net. Chip Walters, proud to support youth sports across Middle Tennessee.
NBA Summer League action yesterday of note, of interest perhaps. New Orleans Pelicans 89, Brandon Miller and the Hornets 83. Little League State Tournament action this weekend, starting tomorrow. Well, tonight they've got a home run derby at Columbia American Little League Park, so make sure to get out for that at 5:30. But tomorrow games start, and boy, right out of the gate, first game of the entire tournament, a rematch of last year's state finals, Columbia American, Nolensville.
Wow. Host team and the defending state champ.
This is going to be nuts. It's 10 a.m. tomorrow. At noon, it's Granger County and Lexington. At 2 o'clock, it's Burns and Lafayette. At 4 o'clock, Morristown and Daniel Boone. On Sunday,
you will have two winners bracket semifinals and two elimination games.
That's correct.
Based on tomorrow's results.
Yes.
Major League Baseball this weekend resumes. Finally, goodness. The White Sox will be visiting Truist Park, taking on the host Atlanta Braves. 6:20 tonight, 6:15 Saturday, and 12:35 on Sunday. Also, San Diego is at Philadelphia. Milwaukee's at Cincinnati. The Red Sox go to Wrigley Field, taking on the Cubs. The Washington Nationals are at St. Louis against the Cardinals, and the Houston Astros will go to the Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim. Also in minor league baseball, the Sounds will play a 3-game series at Louisville starting tonight, and we'll be catching up later with Jeff Hem, the play-by-play announcer of the Nashville Sounds, to talk about what he's done with his downtime this week. WNBA action. The All-Star Game is Saturday night, 7:30 on ABC. You can see that. NBA Summer League action. You've got the Grizzlies and Lakers at 10 tonight on ESPN, and the Grizzlies and Suns at 9:30 tomorrow night on NBA TV. And on the pitch, Nashville Soccer Club goes to the Cincinnati Football Club. Visitors looking to reverse some late fortunes. 6:30 first touch in that one. And that is your rundown.
Top stories brought to you by Piggly Wiggly at Neely's Mill Shopping Center here in Columbia. Glad to have the fine folks over there taking care of us when we need them most, like at lunchtime. I wish I had been able to get over there today. I have not eaten anything.
I have had a bagel and it's gone.
Yeah,
So,
I'm struggling right now.
Yeah.
And
It would, if only they delivered.
if they delivered, it'd be great. But
Is Piggly Wiggly part of Uber Eats?
yeah, can you DoorDash
Yeah.
Piggly Wiggly deli food? I don't know, maybe so. But it,
If somebody wants to bring us something by here at 315 West 7th.
I may have to eat some of this fudge just to put something.
I
in
don't
my
think that's
stomach.
going to do you any good
No, it'd make
from
it
a
worse.
nutritional value.
No, but who knows?
Anyway,
That being said, Piggly Wiggly, fresh hand-cut meats. If you're looking for something to cook this weekend, good steak or something like that, no better place to go than Piggly Wiggly.
you know what?
Are you thinking about a good steak this weekend?
Got the grill fixed up.
Don't think too hard.
Yeah, right.
Just
Don't overthink it.
That's right. Head
Yeah.
out there and go get you a good steak. Top story comes from Knoxville. The NCAA and Tennessee have, I don't guess it was an agreement necessarily.
I don't feel like it was an agreement.
But you feel like Tennessee is probably okay with what came down today, although there were some pretty harsh penalties. But the number one thing that Tennessee fans and the university wanted to avoid was a postseason ban, and they did.
Yeah. I think there were some pretty harsh penalties, but I think there were some pretty significant violations.
18 level ones, you're going to expect that. And, long story short, during the head coach's tenure, talking about Jeremy Pruitt's tenure, he and other members of his staff acted with general and blatant disregard for rules compliance, a Division I Committee on Infractions panel said regarding Pruitt. That's via the NCAA statement on this situation. Full list of sanctions for the University of Tennessee, 5 years probation. I'm assuming that is backdated. I don't know. Maybe not.
Maybe
5
not.
years from today. That being said, reduction in football scholarships by a total of 28, which includes at least 2 scholarships per year.
And most of that was self-imposed, was it not? The scholarship.
They are credited with 16 scholarship reductions for the last 2 academic years, and a reduction in football official visits by a total of 36, including a reduction of at least 4 per year. Tennessee shall prohibit official visits in connection with a total of 10 regular season home games, 4 of which must be against SEC opponents. Tennessee previously self-imposed and is credited with a reduction of 7 official visits from the 2021-22 academic year, and can be credited for any additional reductions in visits from 22-23 if they were imposed in connection with regular season home games. A reduction in football unofficial visits by a total of 40 weeks during the term of probation, which is the 5 years, including at least 6 weeks per year. Tennessee shall prohibit unofficial visits in connection with 10 regular season home games, 4 of which must be against SEC opponents. They previously imposed and are credited with 6 weeks of reduction in 21 and 2 in 2022. And they can be credited for any additional reductions in 2022-23. They self-imposed and are credited with a reduction of 12 days in fall of 21 and 8 days of spring of 2022 on recruiting communications. And they will have to have 6 total weeks there, and a total of reduction in evaluation days to 120 during the 5 years. So these are pretty heavy on Tennessee, but it appears that it's not something that Josh Heupel already hasn't been working around. They've already self-imposed most of these things. They just have to do it for a longer period. And to be honest, it ain't stopped Josh Heupel very much in the world of recruiting.
Doesn't seem to have slowed UT down. And I think part of the reason those restrictions haven't slowed UT down is because of the product they've been able to put on the field in a short period of time.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate using the phrase they're back.
And with the cloud of what could happen hanging over you, now that's gone.
Right. Now we can really go to work. But I mean, what they were able to do last year and how they're placed, to be able to, challenge that 2022 performance again this time around is pretty remarkable in the short period of time that Josh Heupel and his staff have had. And again, with this hanging over them. So.
Exactly. For the coaches and staff members, Jeremy Pruitt has been given a 6-year show cause. Now, he can be employed in an athletically related position at an NCAA school, but if that were the case, he would be suspended for the entire first year.
A la Will Wade, huh?
Yeah, but Will didn't get quite a year.
No, he didn't get a year. I mean, he got 10 games?
Yeah,
but
just not very much considering. I mean, comparatively speaking here. You would have to pay Jeremy Pruitt
to not work for a year.
Now, you could have him going forward. You could get past the show cause, but it's like buying a player back into a game with a timeout. It's like you got to call timeout to get him back in, but it's going to cost you.
Yeah, but and the question becomes, is it worth the timeout?
Right. Is it worth paying him for a year? We'll see how good Kevin Steele is to find out if Alabama's going to take that chance. A 5-year show cause for the former director of recruiting, a 10-year show cause for the former assistant director of recruiting, a 2-year show cause for the former assistant coach who can be employed by an NCAA member school. And if he is hired, he would then be prohibited from participating in any recruiting activities, whether on or off campus. So it is a strictly on-field position. If you hired that person, and I don't know who that person is, by the way.
Yeah, there were no names attached to any of those.
No names.
You know who did avoid punishment?
Who's that?
Mrs. Pruitt.
Oh, it's interesting, right? Here is something that I thought was very interesting. A vacation of all records in which student athletes competed while ineligible. The university must provide a written report containing the contests impacted to the NCAA media coordination and statistics staff within 14 days of the public release of the decision. Number one, luckily, there ain't going to be a whole lot of wins that have to be vacated. Number two, at what point do we find out which players created the ineligibility? And are there going to be some very familiar names?
Will we?
I don't know that we can, will, or not. But if we did, I suspect there would be some familiar names on that list.
Well, it's kind of a situation where what's the point in doing all this if you're doing it with guys who aren't difference makers for you?
Yeah. And I think that's that's an interesting situation because again, I don't know what all records includes. I know all means all, but what is records?
Right.
You know, otherwise, who knows? But also during the probation term, an external group shall conduct a compliance review of the football program with an emphasis on recruiting operations. Each year of the probation term, they will host an annual mandatory compliance seminar with an emphasis on recruiting for all football staff, coaches, part-time and volunteer included. Staff from either the NCAA National Office or the SEC will be in attendance. Tennessee's cooperation throughout the investigation and processing of the case was exemplary by any measure. But once again, with all of the things that you now have to deal with, almost $9 million in fines, all of this stuff, it's still a win for Tennessee because $9 million is far less than Jeremy Pruitt was due to be paid.
It's a win for UT because you got rid of Jeremy Pruitt and you didn't have to buy him out for his number.
Whatever. And I know the number was fairly high, but it
was eight digits, wasn't it?
Oh, it was higher than 9 million. Otherwise,
Yeah, I mean,
otherwise this is a bad deal.
Right. I mean, yeah, I mean, it was upwards of 10, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Did I see 13?
So my question to you is, would $4 million have been worth it to avoid these penalties?
No.
You don't think?
No.
Because you're going to pay him over a long period of time.
Just get it out of the way and move forward. Get it out of the way, get rid of him and move forward.
Yeah, but you could have done it without all of these penalties if you just fire him and pay it. And now you already got to pay $9 million. So what's 4 more and not have to deal with the recruiting violations?
How the recruiting violations were there.
Yeah, but the NCAA doesn't know about them if Tennessee doesn't tell them.
The NCAA doesn't know about them at that point.
Right.
What? And so you're just saying that they would have never found out.
I mean, it's possible. Do you take that chance? I don't know that
I don't know that I take that chance. I think this is just be done with it. Be done with that whole chapter of Tennessee football.
12.6 million
was the buyout.
Was the buyout. So $3.6 million ish, because it's almost 9. I don't know. I think I'm a gambler. I probably would have just gambled.
I think at Tennessee, as a friend of mine is fond of saying, if money is the issue, then there is no issue.
Yeah, so the gamble is less with the money. The gamble is if they do find out, the punishments are far harsher.
Because you didn't come forward.
Right.
You had an opportunity to come forward, you didn't. And as you like to say, it's not the crime, it's the cover-up.
Yeah.
Especially with the NCAA.
But on the flip side of that, as we have talked about with Oklahoma State and with now Tennessee, is it worth it to cooperate?
Oklahoma State will tell you unequivocally it is not worth it.
They have.
I mean, they will.
They are
not,
on record.
They will not even entertain that conversation. No. Next question. I think UT has to feel like they got off a little bit better. But again, they initiated this whole thing. Mm-hmm. They wanted this because this gave them a scapegoat and a way to get out from under the Jeremy Pruitt regime, such as it was. They wanted this. Oklahoma State didn't. They were trying to do the best thing to mitigate whatever had taken place there, and they got worked. Again, I don't think UT can really complain about the way this thing has turned out.
I just think it is mighty interesting that they still got hammered pretty hard.
But they didn't get hammered as hard as they could have.
They didn't get hammered as hard as they could have.
Yeah. And so I really think that's the way you have to look at it, though.
You save $3.5 million and you don't have to, and you don't get a postseason ban.
Yeah.
Oh, and you don't have to pay for scholarships for like 10 kids over the next 5 years.
Well, I mean,
and it's certainly not like Josh Heupel is. Obviously, depth has been an issue under Heupel, but boy,
what's the difference in 75 and 85?
Very little, almost nothing.
So
ask the FCS. Jacksonville State's out here kicking FBS teams' butts with fewer than that. So.
I mean, is that guy? I'd like to know if you ranked your scholarship guys 1 through 75, 1 through 85, whatever. How often that number 80 guy is actually getting on the field in key situations? I mean,
right.
He's probably a special teams player at best.
Almost never.
Yeah. So,
all right, let's take a quick break. We'll call VALAIR SHABILLA of Broadway Sports Media and talk to him about Nashville SC as they are struggling. And so stick around here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bar and Joint. We'll come back to the Lee Company studio right after this. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net. Custom Stone Handler supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with River Stone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe that the measure of any person or company is how they treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStonehandlers.com.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net. Hey, welcome back to Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint.
Chris Yow and Mo Patton here with you on this Friday edition as we are getting ready for the weekend. And of course, next week's SEC Media Days will be coming to you live from the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. 4 days of live coverage. 4 days of live coverage. And then on Friday, you'll get just almost like a water hose of everything that happened over the week. Yes. We're gonna be throwing everything that we did over the weekend, over the entire week at you. So get
7
ready.
different kinds of smoke.
It will be all the smoke, and looking forward to, I think this is going to be a big week, a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. So make sure you're following at @MS_sports today for exclusive live shows for each individual SEC team as well. Big weekend ahead because Nashville SC has really struggled ever since Mo brought up their 10-game non-losing streak.
Oh, wow.
Tell me I'm wrong.
Wow. Wow.
I'm not saying it's your fault, Mo. I'm just stating facts. You brought it up, and then they started to stink. It could be coincidence. I don't know. That being said, we do want to bring in our favorite Nashville SC expert, and that is VALAIR SHABILLA of Broadway Sports. VALAIR, how are you, man?
Hey, guys. Thank you for having me again. And I totally agree. It's Mo's fault.
See? We're all in agreement here.
Thanks, Valera. I appreciate it, man. Don't spread that around, please. But
no, thank you guys for having me again. Really, really happy to be joining the show again.
Well, we are happy to have you as well, not necessarily under these circumstances, because with the 4-2 loss to Philadelphia on home pitch Wednesday night, NSC has lost 4 of their last 5 outings, going into the prohibitive MLS favorite, I guess, Cincinnati, for a big matchup tomorrow night. What since the last time we talked, Valera, has happened to this team? And I know. Let me preface by saying I know nobody's really happy with the officiating in that last outing, but that said, what has gone on, generally speaking, with this team over the last 3-4 weeks?
Yeah, multiple factors have really affected that unbeaten run that ended up, kind of going away. But I think the first thing you talk about is losing 3 key players to international duty. So the Gold Cup for CONCACAF started this month. So you lose Jacob Schaffelberg, Fafa Pico, and Anibal Godoy. Those are 3 key players. I mean, at least 2 of those started every match for Nashville since the beginning of the season. So you're looking at 3 key players missing. It didn't really help that at that same run, the 5-game runs that you talked about. Teal Bunbury was injured for part of it. That's another key player. Walker Zimmerman had a suspension for part of it. That's another key player. So you're looking at just missing key pieces. And I honestly don't think there are many teams in MLS that you can miss 3 to 5 pieces each game and be able to perform at the same level. So that to me is the number one reason why the dip in form. And like you said, there's been some really, really refereeing issues, some really major ones, if anything. But I think even Coach Gary Smith will tell you that the refereeing is not necessarily the main reason. There are some finishing issues, and obviously the players missing for injury and international duty. I would put those probably ahead of the refereeing.
There you go. Well, and when you mention, missing a lot of key players, that's something that most teams have to deal with in MLS, right?
Yeah, most top teams, yeah, because the thing with international duty is that it fully depends on your club form. So if you're performing well with your club and your club is performing well in general, then generally you'll have more players go into international duty. So it's a good thing inherently, but then it kind of evolves into, well, because they performed so well, their country wants them to play for them, and now your club is missing that player. Now I will say most of the players have come back. There's only one player missing for international duty now, and that's Anibal Godoy. Jacob Schaffelberg had a good tournament with Canada. He scored a goal against the U.S. actually, so that was positive for him. Not really positive for the U.S., I guess. Fafa Picot has been back for a couple of games now. And then the injury to Teal Bunbury, he's back to full health as well. So it's not like these issues continue. There's just one player who's Anibal Godoy, a very important player for this team, who's still with his country, Panama, and they'll be playing in the final against Mexico. And then after that, he'll return to Nashville.
Gotcha.
VALAIR SHABILLA of Broadway Sports joining us here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint, talking a little Nashville Soccer Club heading into a highly anticipated matchup Saturday night up at Cincinnati. VALAIR, is this matchup as highly anticipated as it was earlier, given Nashville's recent struggles?
Is it as highly anticipated? Probably around the same area, but not as much. No, I think it lost something once Nashville really struggled in those last 5 games. I think a lot of pundits really around the country and even here locally were kind of predicting as Nashville as the only team that can give Cincinnati a little bit of a challenge for the Supporters' Shield. But now going into Saturday, you're all of a sudden looking into a 10-point difference. It becomes really difficult to kind of see Nashville catching up, especially since Cincinnati have not lost a single game at home. Matter of fact, they've only drawn 1 game at home and they've won the rest. So when you take that and you combine it with Nashville missing their 2 fullbacks in Shaq Moore and Dan Lovitz, because of red cards that happened on Wednesday against the Philly game, and Anibal Godoy is still missing from international duty, as we spoke about. It really makes this it's Cincy's game to lose at this point, honestly, and the Supporters' Shield as a whole, it's looking like it's Cincy's to lose. They seem to get away with these very narrow margin games. Which is something Nashville just haven't been able to replicate. And because of that, instead of, 5 to 7 point difference, you go into this game with 10 point difference. And that's just hard to catch up. Even if Nashville wins this game, which is looking somewhat unlikely at this point, I would say, you're still looking at a 7-point difference with the win. And since he still has the game in hand.
Yeah, that's tough. And Cincinnati's been really, really difficult to beat. Not necessarily, just at home, but all season long. So that's certainly going to be a tall task tomorrow night in Cincinnati. VALAIR, I wanted to go to a story that you had a little bit earlier this week, and that Nashville SC potentially going after Sam Surridge, out of Nottingham. Is there anything legitimate to that, or is it just something you were hearing? What's the concrete on that?
Nothing concrete in terms of official statements anywhere, but I reported on this earlier this week. Some sources close to the club kind of indicated a couple of weeks ago, actually, that this Sam Surridge deal might be something that can happen. I can confirm that it is. They are pursuing Sam Surridge. They have been pursuing Sam Surridge. There's a picture out there of him at BNA with Nashville SC GM Mike Jacobs. I hadn't seen the picture once I heard before I heard the the news, so I wasn't really sure about it. And then now you look at his profile as a player. You look at the profile that Nashville SC has targeted in the past for those positions, and it makes a lot of sense. Like I said, it is something that I know Nashville is going for, and they are trying to sign him. The one holdup, I would say, is the fact that other teams in England are pursuing Sam Surridge as well. Now, there isn't anything concrete there. That could be just agent talk. I honestly can't tell you. But I think we'll know in the next week or so how serious or if they got their man.
It would be a pretty big deal. And you know, is this something that folks across the pond need to be worried about? I mean, not just in, you know, obviously Messi coming to Miami, but if folks over there start coming to America to play soccer, this could be it could get bad for Europe.
Yeah, and it's not just MLS doing this, right? You have the Saudi League also going in and taking some really big talents out of Europe and putting them in the Saudi League because of the money they have. Now, I will say I don't think MLS is a big threat in that market just simply because they haven't been really. I mean, you have the Messi thing, of course, which will draw a lot of people, but at this point, the league, MLS just doesn't have the money to compete with a lot of these top European leagues, especially when you look at the Premier League, which is where Sam Surridge would be coming from, just to go back to that. There is no sort of, there's no comparison, I would say, in terms of player recruitment between the Premier League and MLS, whether it's money, whether it's fame, or just level of play. Now, what I would say is that players seem to be more open to come to MLS and showcase what they have. So if you look at a player like Hani Mukhtar, previously you would see a player like him at 24 maybe go to a lower level European team to showcase their level. And it comes with a lot of pressure, right? To where he chose to come to Nashville SC, and all of a sudden he's now the MVP of not just the team, but the league as a whole. So players are more open to do that now, because of moves like Messi and moves like that kind of open up the door for a lot of these players. So when they are saying to their agent, when they're saying to the media, hey, we're going to MLS, people are not, necessarily laughing at them. It's more of, oh, okay, you're going to become something, to play every minute. Because for someone like Sam Surridge, for example, he can go to another English team, maybe in the Championship or the Premier League, and not get the opportunity. And for a striker, you want to have those minutes to where he knows he can come to Nashville and pretty much walk straight into the starting lineup. And he's backing himself to come here and score a bunch of goals maybe. And you know what? At 24, if he gets a 3-year deal with Nashville, at 27, he can go back to England. There is still that chance for him, where in the past, you've only seen players who are pretty much finishing up their career going to MLS. This is opening up the door to younger players to come to MLS and give their prime years here in this country.
Valair, there is another reporter on Twitter 1 minute ago says that it's almost done, that Sam Surridge is headed to Nashville.
I am driving, as you may know, to Cincinnati. So who is the reporter?
This is coming from The Athletic and Daniel Taylor.
Okay. Well, in that case, I will say
that if you need to get off and start making phone calls to people who matter, that we would not be we would understand.
I might need to. Yeah, after this, no problem.
But man, yeah, going back to tonight and Nashville going forward, what's the outlook for the rest of the season once you get everybody back? Do you feel comfortable that Nashville can get back to what they were doing, before this last skid?
I would say that a top 4 spot in the East is still in play. I really think the Supporter Shield is not really something they can. It's not realistic to go for the Supporter Shield, I don't think, anymore. But I think there's still a chance for a top 4 spot, which, just guarantees that you'll be hosting more playoffs games. There's a new playoff format this season in MLS, so folks are still getting used to that. The first round will be a 3-match series. So you want to host 2 of those, which if you're higher up, obviously you get to do that. So you want for sure to be in that top 4 group rather than below that. And I think that's still in play for Nashville. it's not going to be easy. They still have some big games coming up for them. But at the same time, if you look at the table right now, you'll see that those top teams play against each other. And they're all taking points from each other, including Nashville, right? So what you want to do is just make sure that you continue your home form. So the home form for Nashville has been great. As long as they continue that and maybe get a couple of draws on the road instead of those losses, you'll start to kind of build up to the playoffs in that higher spot. And you know what? Someone like Sam Surridge is probably going to make things a little easier for NSC.
There you go. Yeah, the £5 million fee has been agreed to at this point. So it's there's that. But Valair, we'll let you go. We'll let you get to work, apparently. And so, but again, we appreciate you taking time with us and talking a little Nashville SC. It's always a good time to get an update on the club, and we look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thanks, guys. I'm gonna go find a rest area and make some calls. How about that?
Hey, be safe up there, man. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Have a good one, guys.
Before we get out of here, Mo, because baseball is next, and I don't want to try to push everything in. Let's go to the other football, the American version. Pro Football Hall of Fame semifinalists announced, and the first name on the list
because they're alphabetical.
Well, yeah. For coaches and contributors is Bud Adams. And the fact that Bud Adams is not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame has got to be the most insane overlook in the history of time, right?
You know, and when we have Brad Willis on from the Tennessee Sports Hall of Fame, and when you talk to other folks about Halls of Fame, you know, that's often a comment or a reaction. You mean they're not already in? Well, no, he's not. And as friend of the show and former intern one, Andrew Earl Moore pointed out on a Facebook exchange, the paperwork for the merger between the AFL and the NFL was literally signed in his office.
And yet, that blew my mind. And the fact that Bud Adams could potentially go into the Hall of Fame with Tom Coughlin, who was coaching 5 years ago, is absolutely
there
crazy.
Would be a little irony there or coincidence, considering that former Titans coach Jeff Fisher once referred to Jacksonville as the Titans' second home, while Coughlin was coaching the Jags. So there'd be a little humor there.
But that just blew. I'm like, Bud Adams and Tom Coughlin. Tom Coughlin was just coaching, like not that long ago. And he could go into the Hall of Fame at the same time as Bud Adams. That was nuts. Other player semifinalists, which I think Ken Anderson, you know, the fact that he's not in is a little surprising to me. Of course, maybe Hall of Very Good.
Maybe Hall of Very Good for Ken Anderson, yeah.
You know, but as I go down this list, Billy White Shoes Johnson, I don't know where he stacks up statistically. Maybe I just know him because he had a great nickname. Sterling Sharp.
Sterling Sharp is another guy who it's a little surprising to me that he's not already.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a shortened career because of the neck injury, but my goodness, when he played, he was certainly one of the greats at his position. I think his 18 receiving touchdowns in a single season is still maybe top 5 all time.
And in today's game, the fact that that's still a thing, it just kind of tells you. Steve McMichael, I love that. Steve McMichael will go into the WWE Hall of Fame before he goes into the NFL Hall or the Pro Football Hall of Fame. But boy, he was a lot of fun watching growing up on Monday Night Nitro. Yeah, I don't see any names on here that I go, yep, they're in. I mean, not one name do I say, no doubt this person should be in the Hall.
Mm-hmm.
So who knows? It may just be a bunch of coaches and contributors this time around.
And it's interesting that Bud Adams is a contributor, I guess. That's like you said.
He contributed an entire league.
A league, yeah.
Oh, man. Well, let's take a break. When we come back, we will talk baseball, Braves, White Sox this weekend. So stick around here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Be right back to the Lee Company studio after this.
You've been putting back a few, and a few becomes a few too many. For a moment, you think about calling for a ride. Nah, you live nearby. What's the worst that can happen? You get pulled over, your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you total your car, you kill someone.
Better than drinking an ice-cold beverage while taking in a Nashville Sounds baseball game. Hi, I'm Stephanie Miller with Mornings on Main Street. The Nashville Sounds and Main Street Media Television have teamed up to promote Sunday Family Fun Day here at First Horizon Park each Sunday home game. Just go to your favorite Main Street Media website and click on Sounds Main Street Media Day banner to register to win free tickets. And then we'll see you here at the ballpark.
Tired of hanging lights every year? We get it. That's why Southern Nights is here to help. We install programmable lighting on your home or business so you can enjoy beautiful, customizable lighting all year round. No more ladders, tangled lights, or cold nights outside. We do the work, you do the celebrating. Call Southern Nights today and take the hassle out of holiday lighting forever. For a free quote, give us a call at 931-241-3074 or visit our Facebook page at Southern Nights.
.1968, Hank Aaron's third inning 3-run homer off San Francisco starter Mike McCormick was the difference in the host Atlanta Braves 4-2 win over the Giants. It was also the 500th career round tripper for the legendary slugger, making him the 8th major leaguer to reach the milestone. That was this day in Braves history.
It's interesting because All-Star breaks are so different year and over year. So I'm glad the All-Star break's not at the same time, because then we wouldn't have this damn Braves history for some odd days. But
yeah. I mean, you gotta hope that a Brave was significant in a All-Star game, as Hank Aaron was in the 71 game that we referred to yesterday. But yeah, it's good that it kind of moves around a little bit for this.
Atlanta will be hosting Chicago, the White Sox version of Chicago.
Southsiders.
The Southsiders, as they are so lovingly called. Atlanta's going with a unique pitching rotation this weekend.
Well, is it though?
Well,
they're going with a unique pitching rotation for this weekend, but I think when you look at what that does for the pitching rotation for their next series, it makes a little more sense.
It does, in fact. That's where I was going with that, because the way that it works out with Morton Strider and Colby Allard on Sunday with the likely bomb squad, because at least TDA, if nobody else.
Sure, because the White Sox come into this series at 38-54.
And yeah, I mean, that kind of just tells you right there what the Braves are looking at long term, of course, not just with, obviously the White Sox not very good, and then you've got the Diamondbacks who have been right there with you at the top of the National League standings for the entire season, and then you've got Milwaukee and Boston and all the things that go with that.
So you've got, like you said, you've got Morton tonight. You've got Strider tomorrow night. You've got Allard in the Sunday finale. You're off Monday.
Right.
So my presumption is you're going to see Elder in the Tuesday opener against Arizona. And then Morton Strider.
I would think so.
And you're skipping Soroka, basically.
Soroka or Schuster, whomever.
Soroka.
Well, and that's can you afford to skip Soroka? Is an interesting question.
I think you can afford to skip Soroka. Can Soroka afford to be skipped?
Yeah, that's kind of, I mean, for the long-term success.
I'm not sure what the priority is in that situation. Soroka needs to throw.
Yeah, I would think.
Does Soroka necessarily need to throw against Arizona?
Yeah, I mean, at some point he's going to have to, but it doesn't have to be now.
No.
And I think that's kind of,
And here's the deal. The way the Braves schedule sets up for the rest of the month, again, they're off Monday. They're off the following Thursday, the 27th. And then they've got another off day on August 3rd. So you've got an opportunity to skip some guys. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if Elder doesn't get skipped at some point, just to kind of manage his innings a little bit.
For the long-term success again.
But yeah, I mean, to your point, Soroka needs to throw, and he needs to throw major league innings at this point, I think. I don't think there's anything left for him to prove at Gwinnett other than to just get work.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps a simulated game if they have to skip him, maybe.
Yeah. Just to keep him on schedule to the degree possible, I guess. Because when did he throw?
Gosh.
Did he throw against Tampa Bay? I don't know that he did.
Think so.
I don't think he started in the Tampa Bay series.
No,
so it might have been the
Strider
Cleveland
started.
Series. Yeah. That he
Probably is it the Tonkin game?
Yeah, because he went 4 2/3.
4 2/3
in the Wednesday game, actually, that they won.
8-1.
Yeah.
On that finale.
Mm-hmm.
So it'll be nearly 3 weeks
between
if
starts.
he gets skipped.
Yeah,
And I don't know that that's something that you can do. But here's the thing: Allard's spot is where he would normally throw.
Mm-hmm.
Why is Colby Allard throwing over Michael Soroka?
Maybe they're going to piggyback there.
Maybe they both throw.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a bad idea. That's an option. Okay.
I mean, you have to like what you've seen out of Colby Allard here in the 2 or 3 appearances that he's made, including the one in relief on Sunday, I think. And I think the one thing that has been encouraging about him is his willingness to go up with the fastball. He gets a lot of swings and misses at the top of the zone, it appears to me.
Well, he was not getting high enough early in his career, which is why he ended up where he ended up and then back in the Braves organization.
Well, I don't think he was high enough, and I don't think his velocity was quite high enough.
I have read just some blogs here and there.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing him potentially helps his trade value continue to increase.
That as we approach the trade deadline.
And the fact that Nick Anderson's now on the 60-day IL. And the guy that you brought up to replace him is Lucas Luque. The Braves are going to be in the market
for a reliever.
Especially if AJ Minter's pec isn't just a tightness that he was, semi-worried about.
Mm-hmm. Now, remember, you got Nick Heller out there.
Yes. I mean, Heller is there. But if you lose both guys who can set you up in the 7th and 8th, Heller can only fill one of those roles.
There's that.
And there's nobody else in the bullpen outside. I mean, Kirby Yates has been better. Every time I say that, he goes out and screws up the next day.
Ben Heller, excuse me. Yeah.
But you obviously, and the way that Brian Snitker manages his bullpen, he's not going to go to those guys day in, day out.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to have 2 or 3 guys who can fill that void in that role.
And again, it's not if, but when Jesse Chavez gets back.
Yes, when Jesse Chavez gets back, you obviously have someone to fill that, but when is that going to be?
And that's a good question. Is it today?
I don't think so. They have not announced it on their Twitter.
Mm-hmm.
And I assumed that they would have announced that Jesse Chavez has been activated in the event he had been. So I don't think that's the thing. But I'm curious to see how this trade deadline plays out, especially with the few injuries that we are seeing among Braves relievers. It certainly feels like that a reliever would be potentially in their wheelhouse. And
if so, is Jordan Hicks of the St. Louis Cardinals on their radar?
Yes, I think he's got to be. Is Jack Flaherty an option?
I don't know that the Braves
need.
Well, I wouldn't say need, but are you going to trade for a guy? They've typically not gone the rental player mode. And if you trade for Jack Flaherty in late July and he walks at the end of the season, what have you given? What are you giving up for him?
Because he's a West Coast guy.
Yeah, he and Max Fried played high school ball together.
And if Max walks too the year after, you have really. But if you have both of them, can you convince both of them to sign extensions?
That's a good question. And also, I guess, if you win a World Series with him in that short period of time, it's worth it.
Be hard to say no to an extension with a team you just want to ring with.
You would think.
And
yet, there's a certain first baseman.
I'm just saying, I think. I think he would be a great addition to this rotation. That's all I'm saying. Now, what it would take to get him, I'm not sure. But it's just half a season.
I think that is the issue, because I think if you're St. Louis, if you trade a Jack Flaherty, if you trade a Jordan Hicks, you got to get somebody back that can contribute immediately.
Yeah, it can't be Colby Allard.
I don't think it can be Colby Allard. I mean, if I'm St. Louis and I'm trading Jack Flaherty to Atlanta, I'm asking about Bryce Elder.
Yeah, you'd have to get,
somebody controllable who's good.
And he's an all-star. So there's that. No. Can the Braves trade an all-star? Be tough.
Be real tough.
Would be tough.
Because, I mean, how much better than Bryce Elder is Jack Flaherty right now? Right now in 2023.
I don't know.
Is he better?
Yeah, I think so. I think if for nothing else, I would rather see Jack Flaherty on the bump in a playoff series than I would Bryce Elder. And I know he's pitched well in the playoffs in the past, but if I am a Braves fan, I feel much more comfortable going into a game knowing that Flaherty's on the bump instead of Bryce Elder. That's just, and here's the thing. The Braves, if the Braves are going to get someone at the trade deadline, it's someone that is going to help them win a World Series. It's going to be someone who plays well in October and November. It's not what they do in August doesn't matter.
No, that's the one thing about this team right now. That's the one concern. There's nothing that they can do between now and game 162 that really means anything.
That's exactly right. You know who would love if the Braves traded for Jack Flaherty? The Milwaukee Brewers, because they wouldn't have to see him nearly as much.
There's that.
And so let's take a break and talk to Brewers AAA affiliate, Nashville Sounds voice, Jeff Him, right after this on Main Street Sports Day, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bar and Joint. Y'all stick around. Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint treats your orthopedic injuries and existing conditions. Our trained physicians will get you back in the game faster. Contact us at 931-381-2663 or www.mtbj.net.
With Lee Company technology, the best handymen are hands-off. Lee Company techs have been using visual findings and other smart technology tools for years to add transparency and virtually take customers along. You see what we see, whether we're in a crawl space or on a roof. With Lee Company, technology helps us help you, no matter what's happening in the world or at your house.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy, zioneagles.org or 931-388-5731. You can schedule your appointment. Go tour their campus. It is beautiful over there, and you're definitely going to want to see it. Again, it's zioneagles.org. Give them a call, 931-388-5731, and schedule your tour today.
Did you know that up to 80% of us will experience back or neck pain during our lifetime? Many of you are offered surgery or addictive pain pills to relieve your chronic pain. At the Dr. Gill's Center for Back, Neck, Chronic Pain Relief, we have been leading the way to better health, naturally, and have helped tens of thousands of people right here in Middle Tennessee for the past 30 years.
I came to Dr. Gill about 10 years ago after my local doctors recommended surgery. I knew about Dr. Gill and wanted to see if he could help me. 10 years later, I am pain-free, no surgery, and no pain pills.
Surgery is scary, and over 40% of all back surgeries fail, creating a cycle of surgery and pills. There is a safer solution to your chronic pain. Make the call to the Dr. Gill Center for Back, Neck, Chronic Pain Relief today and get your life back. This office visit is normally $299, but call today and receive your initial consultation, report of finding for just $49. But hurry, this offer won't last long. Call 615-768-8743. That's 615-768-8743.
A game without a crowd is just a scrimmage. A performance without an audience is just a rehearsal. Without your presence, high school sports and the performing arts aren't possible. Ensure that these essential extracurricular activities continue to enrich the lives of students in Tennessee. Purchase a ticket to your local high school's game or performance.
This message presented by the TSSAA.
You can't see the sights without the sounds. From the crack of the bat to the roar of the crowd and everything in between, discover what Hit City has to offer. Spend your nights cheering on the Nashville Sounds at First Horizon Park with giveaways, fireworks shows, theme weekends, and more. Single game tickets are on sale now. Visit NashvilleSounds.com to claim your seat today.
Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint has been the official sports medicine provider for Murray County Schools for more than 40 years. We specialize in orthopedic service, and our Ortho Quick Walk-In Clinic lets you bypass the ER. Visit us online at www.mtbj.net.
Welcome back in Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Chris Yow, Mo Patton here with you on this Friday. Again, SEC Media Days. Next week, we'll be coming to you live from the Grand Hyatt, so make sure to join us every day at 2 o'clock from 2 until 4 p.m. each and every weekday next week, including Friday.
And thereafter.
And thereafter, that's right. We'll be making that 2-hour pull. Of course, we'll have plenty to talk about with football season just around the corners.
Yeah, that extra half hour will not be an issue for a while.
No, it will not. So looking forward to it, and looking forward to this next segment as we bring in the voice of the Nashville Sounds, Jeff Him, who earlier was on his way to Louisville. I don't know if he's made it or not yet. Sounds like he's walking into a hotel room right now. But Jeff, are you there?
Hey guys, I have arrived. I'm at the ballpark looking out at a beautiful day here in Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville Slugger Field.
Yep.
That's a nice yard, man.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I enjoy coming here, mostly because it's geographically easy and close to get to. So of course, we play the Bats 6 times this year, 3 in Nashville and 3 in Louisville, even though it's only a 2.5-hour trip. But, you know, not to get on a scheduled tangent, we could do an hour on that, but I'm going to let my opinion be known. It would be a very sensible thing to play more than 6 games for the Sounds and the Bats this year.
I think what we are finding in athletics at every level, Jeff, is that geography means next to nothing.
And I agree with that, only except that post-COVID, it was supposed to mean everything. In the last 2 years, it meant most of the logic behind the AAA schedule. And now that's fine if it means less and less, but I don't know that it should really sacrifice sensibility as a byproduct, but such is life.
Coming in hot on this Friday.
Hey, he's had some time off. He's rested up. He's ready to roll. Yeah. I like this Jeff Him. Jeff, how was your All-Star break, man?
It was great. Yeah, it was great. You know, I'm not going to shy away from sharing thoughts about the schedule, but I will also give a shout out in this regard to Major League Baseball that for the last few years, they've made the AAA All-Star break not only coincide with the Big League All-Star break, which has been in place for a long, long time, they added the fourth day off, which obviously for me selfishly is great, but I do think it matters for the ball players. If there's not going to be a AAA All-Star game, that's fine. But there were so many years in the grind of the Pacific Coast League travel and with that layout that they would do the 3-day break. They do go Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, and the big leaguers would still be off for Thursday, but the AAA season would resume on that Thursday. And so the league and level with arguably at that time anyway, the worst travel, and I don't think it was really an argument, it was pretty much a fact, the worst travel only had a 3-day break. In the last few years, they've gone to that fourth day, which I think makes a ton of difference for the players to get the rest that they need at this time of year. It may not sound like much to have that one additional day, but when guys are going to be traveling to somewhere and back from somewhere, that additional day is helpful. And, the broadcaster gets to be along for the ride in that break. So I appreciate the fourth day as well. And it makes for a more enjoyable break. It allows you to do a little bit more and, come back refreshed and ready to go, which I think the Sounds are here tonight in Louisville.
The Sounds coming back into action tonight at Louisville, 6:15 start tonight and tomorrow, 5:05 on Sunday. Those are all Central Time. Louisville is on Eastern Time. So if you get the urge to go up 65, beware of that. But the Sounds, 48-37 on the year, 8-3 in the second half. And that's a number that means something, Jeff.
It does, yeah. Again, the standings reset. People are saying, wait a minute, they've only played 11 games. Well, we've played well over 80 overall, but for postseason purposes, the second half record is the one that matters the most now. And the Sounds are off to a good start, just like Norfolk had in the first half. The team out of the other 19 now with the best second half record is going to be the one that makes the postseason. So the Sounds are in that mix a couple of weeks into the second half. You combine that with, and I heard you guys in your last segment thinking trade deadline, and this is just a fun time of year. You have the amateur draft from that standpoint. You've got teams coming back out of the break at all levels as far as the big leagues and AAA go. Trade deadline not far away. The Sounds are, being a Brewers affiliate, are going to be affected one way or another, whether directly or indirectly. They're going to be affected at some point in the next few weeks, I think, from this trade deadline. And history has shown us that each of the last couple of years with some guys who were Sounds at the time they got traded, or if somebody else gets traded and somebody gets called up, there's a trickle-down effect. And, I joke about the Sounds and the Bats. I truly wish, and not even for geography, I truly wish that the season series for these two teams was more than 6 games. And hopefully that'll be the case in years to come, because I don't have to tell Reds fans in Middle Tennessee how good their team is, how exciting their team is. And a lot of what's up there has come through Louisville. So Sounds Bats games the last few years have been a lot of fun. Most of them have been going on to Milwaukee and Cincinnati. So if that's going to become a little bit of more of a rivalry than it's been in years past, it's always fun then when the AAA teams get to play each other a lot. And I think the Sounds and the Bats in these next few weeks are going to be even more interesting than they've already been because of where their parent clubs are in the standings. You were talking about it from a Braves standpoint a moment ago. It's going to affect Gwinnett one way, shape, or form. All 30 big league teams are kind of assessing, where are we? Where do we want to go? Where realistically do we think we can go? And if we want somebody on another team, they've got to try to figure out at what cost will that come. You've got to give up something to get something. And it's a fun time of year because there are headlines that can break at any time on all fronts. And typically it's going to affect the AAA club in some way.
You got to give up something to get something unless you're Alex Anthopoulos.
Yeah, that has been his MO over the years.
That's it. The host Bats 45-40 on the year, 5-7 in the second half. Their starter tonight Levi Stout, I think, actually pitched during the Braves series up at Great American Ballpark a few weeks ago when Ellie De La Cruz kind of had his coming out party. But as you look at the Sounds right now, Jeff, Jason Alexander 1-0 with a 1.80 ERA getting the start tonight for Nashville. Any particular expectations? Anything in particular you're looking for? Anybody that you're focusing on coming out of the break?
Well, I am looking forward to seeing how Jason continues to do, because tonight will be the first time now that he's a regular member of the roster, not on a rehab assignment. We saw the pitch count get up where they wanted it to be in his last outing, and last weekend he was reinstated and optioned. So he's a regular member now of the Sounds. He's fully back, and if they feel like they need him up there at some point, they can now much more easily make that call. And he pitched some big games for them last year when they were without some guys. I'm also interested to see how the next few weeks go for a guy like Brandon Woodruff, who's been out for a long time now for the Brewers, but he's got ace potential when he's healthy, and hopefully for their sake, there's a rehab assignment coming. Everything's been trending well for Brandon, it sounds like, over the last few weeks. And so he's a guy we could see at First Horizon Park at some point on a rehab assignment whenever that step comes. And that would be a major addition for the Brewers to get back at some point in the next few weeks. There have been some moves over the last few days, even though there were no games. Eddie Alvarez actually got released by the Brewers. My suspicion is it's doing right by the player. Eddie's been, transparently, he'd been passed up by a couple of guys, right or wrong. There's been some infield opportunities in Milwaukee this year. You think of Toro going up, you think of Monasterio going up. They went out and they acquired Jahmai Jones, who is now here and has been optioned to the Sounds. So I don't know if Eddie asked to be released. I don't know if the Brewers said, look, we're going to do right by you and give you a chance somewhere else. But that move has just been announced for today. Eddie was so fun to watch and a good player and a good veteran presence. So I hope wherever he lands, it's in the big leagues soon. Because if it wasn't going to happen with the Brewers, you hate to see a guy go, but if it gets him closer to the big leagues, you're happy in that sense to see a guy go. But Eddie was a very meaningful Sound the first few months of the year. So that was a move that affects things coming out of the break. Tyler Naquin is back off the injured list. He's been banged up quite a bit this year, but that's a guy who's hit plenty of big league pitching. If they can get him right and just be an option, if there's something needed up there. They reinstated Tyrone Taylor, who had been with the Sounds going into the break on rehab. So some pieces have been getting moved a little bit here, and a lot of it is positive because the Brewers get a guy like Taylor back. Alexander no longer needs to be on rehab. Jake Cousins has been added to the Sounds on a rehab assignment, so he's on a comeback trail. All these different pieces, they all matter because it gives the big league team options, and you want as many options as possible, especially with a competitive contending team going into an all-star break. You want to have more answers and fewer questions, and so getting guys healthy in some key spots helps you have a fuller deck of cards as you try to evaluate toward the end of the month.
Monte Harrison also released yesterday by the Sounds along with Eddie Alvarez, guest on the show a few weeks back. So like you said, you hope that these moves wind up being in the best interest of those players and helping them move toward the major league level, but certainly hate to see them go.
A Twitter reply to @Nashville Sounds. Really, they could have picked anyone but Eddie. No wonder the Brewers never have any decent players. All the good ones get let go. All of them. All the good ones. Every
all of them. Yeah.
All the good ones. Get them out of here.
Yeah.
Out.
Wow. That's not a jump to conclusion or outlandish statement at all. There's no hyperbole in that.
None. Zero hyperbole. Yes.
Yeah. That sounds like Twitter. That sounds like Twitter.
For better or for worse, that absolutely tracks. Scanning through the game notes today, following Jason Alexander in the rotation. You've got Jansen Junk tomorrow night, 5-5 with a 4.74. You got Robert Gasser in Sunday's finale, 5-1 with a 3.94. I mean, you got to like your chances anytime any of those three guys goes to the mound.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. You get a guy like Jason back. The Sounds have already had the best starting pitching in AAA pretty much all year. And then you're talking about adding Alexander, and maybe somewhere toward the end of the month, the Brewers could get a guy like Woodruff back that would then have a trickle-down effect to the Sounds. An already really good rotation, it gets even better. Pedro Fernandez has been so valuable for the Sounds, kind of an unsung hero, not a prospect, not a big-time name, but whether it's relief or starting, he's been a Swiss Army knife pitcher that's been so valuable. A guy like Caleb Bosley is so reliable in that rotation. Gasser's the prospect. Justin Jarvis, a prospect who just came up last week and had the one outing and is in the rotation. And then you got Jansen Junk. I mean, again, there's the combination of developing young guys like Jarvis and Gasser and getting them ready, but then also just having options down at AAA, whether it's a stretched out starter who goes up to be a long man, whether it's somebody who you think is a long-term starter, whether it's keeping relief options open. But the Brewers are known for developing pitching, and we've seen such good pitching staffs for the Sounds the last couple of years. And whether it's developing, whether it's going outside and bringing guys in, there's a pretty good track record there. And the depth, I think, has been very helpful. I mean, Colin Ray has been invaluable for the Brewers at the big league level. Julio Teheran, like we talked about maybe a month or so ago when they went out and got him, he's been a great find and kind of a resurgent part of his career now. So teams are always looking. At this time of year, they're looking even more. Sometimes trades or acquisitions aren't the splashiest, but they can have a multiple effect to them because they fill one hole and then they put a guy who was in that hole in a different spot, and all of a sudden you've got three outcomes of one deal. There's just so much that can go on this time of year to make a club better, and sometimes that's calling a guy up, and sometimes that's going outside the organization. But it's a fun time of year to cover a AAA club because your team is going to be affected in one way or another in the next few weeks.
Jeff Ham, the voice of the Nashville Sounds, joining us here on Main Street Sports today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. And if history means anything, you got to like the Sounds tonight in particular because, again, cribbing off these game notes, since 2016, the Sounds have yet to lose the first game coming out of the break. 5 straight wins, double digits in 4 of those wins, including a big win over Louisville to open the second half last season. So hopefully that stands up tonight.
Yeah, I think so. I think, I go back to the Memphis series a couple of weeks ago when there was like a little mini all-star break because they timed it up for the 4th of July. So there was a Monday and a Tuesday off day after a Sunday home game. And you're just wondering, good or bad, like what's the team going to look like in the Memphis series on that Wednesday after a couple of days off? Did it do right by the players? Did they almost enjoy too much time? And they had a great series. They won 5 out of 6, swung the bats well, pitched well. It was just an overall pretty dominant series. And so I thought that was a really good sign that the guys used those couple of off days to their advantage. This is a little bit different because a lot more guys, I think, traveled somewhere else for the break than they probably did for that little 2-day stretch, but still enjoy it, get the rest, and then come back ready to play. And we'll see. It's only a 3-game series, but you can still tell a lot by how guys treated their all-star break, by how they perform in the first couple of days out of it. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm also just looking forward to seeing this Louisville team since we saw them the first 3 games of the year and have not seen them since. And they've got some different names and some same names.
There's one guy you won't have to see, though, and that's probably a good thing.
Well, I wanted to see Ellie De La Cruz. To be
I
honest
meant Joey
with you.
Votto.
I mean, well.
After what he did to us in Nashville.
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought you were going with Ellie because I wanted to see Ellie De La Cruz. He was hurt to start the year, so we didn't see him. And then obviously he's gone on to show why he deserved to be in the big leagues. And what's interesting is it Sounds Bats here, and it's Brewers Reds in Cincinnati this weekend. I can guarantee you, Craig Counsell wishes the Sounds were seeing Ellie De La Cruz and
Instead
not
of him.
But without
question.
got to deal with it. So sorry, Craig. I'm happy to take him down here if you want to go across the way and talk to the Reds and see if they'll send him down. I want the Sounds to win every game they play, but it's also just fun to see talented players play. And I've yet to see Ellie in person. And I was thinking back in late March that I would get that chance this weekend, and Ellie's turned out to be a superstar. He's not coming back to AAA anytime soon.
That's a bizarre twist to the schedule, because didn't they play this past weekend as well, Jeff?
They did. They played in Milwaukee going into the break, and they play in Cincinnati coming out of the break. So you talk about being ready out of the break. Let's see how that series goes this weekend. How did those big league teams handle their All-Star break, and how ready are they to get back at it? Corbin Burns is starting for the Brewers tonight. He was named an All-Star but did not pitch in the game, so they got him ready to roll for that first game coming out of the break against the Reds tonight.
Should be fun. Should be a great series. And while you're there, make sure to go visit our friends at Old Forester and Michter's and Angels Envy and anywhere else you might need to stop by. But no, seriously, it's going to be a good series. Looking forward to it. Looking forward to talking to you again soon, Jeff. We appreciate you taking time. Obviously, it's a weird week, but we were able to get you in, and we appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you guys as always for supporting the Sounds and having us on, and we'll see you next week in Nashville.
You got it.
That'll work. They have a 6-game series with the Jumbo Shrimp.
Oh, Jumbo!
Starting Tuesday. Jacksonville coming to town. So
all right, should be fun.
That'll be fun.
Couple of things. Number one, before we get out of here, Javon Quinterly of Alabama.
And Villanova before that.
Villanova, and now he will be a Memphis Tiger, as he's chosen to spend his final season with Penny in the Bluff City.
I mean, if you're a guard, you could certainly do worse.
You could.
So
I'm curious to see how that works out. Good for Penny, because he'd been losing way more than he was gaining for a while there. So it looks like he may be back on the come up. This weekend, Mo, outside of Braves, not a lot going on in the world of sports, but
well, again, here locally, we've got the Little League State Tournament starting up tomorrow morning over at Murray County Park, and the winner of that tournament, which the championship game is scheduled for Thursday, that winner will go to Warner Robins, Georgia, playing the Southeast Regional, and to play for a spot in the 20-team Little League World Series up in Williamsport. So, if you got nothing else to do, come see some of these 12-year-olds. I mean, it's fun to watch. We had the state tournament down here, I think, in 2017. I went up to Drake's Creek, I think it was last year, and watched that championship game that you were talking about between Columbia American and Nolensville last year. And if you were watching the College World Series, I mean, you've seen some guys that you saw on some of these Tennessee State Championship teams earlier in their careers. So, Stars of Tomorrow?
That's
maybe.
Right.
Also, again, I'm sure we'll be keeping an eye on that Nashville Soccer Club and Cincinnati matchup tomorrow evening.
WNBA All-Star Game tomorrow night on ABC at 7:30 should be fun too.
Mm-hmm.
Looking forward to that. I always love All-Star games, especially in the WNBA. It's like watching the Olympics basically. And of course the Crayon 301. The Crayon 301 is this weekend in NASCAR. So, all right, that's going to do it for this week on Main Street Sports Today, presented by Mid-Tennessee Bone and Joint. Mo, I don't know if you noticed, but I
did not notice. I came in such a hurry.
Our Jacksonville State and Middle Tennessee helmets are on the walls.
I'm glad that there's some space between them.
I was going to put them head to head, but I decided against that. But yeah, again, 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock on Monday, Main Street Sports Today from 2 o'clock to 4 o'clock, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Main Street Sports Today. At 4 o'clock, you can see a full version on our apps, whether it be Roku or even your mobile apps, of the individual team shows, or you can watch them live at MS_sports today as they happen next week. Going to be a full week of coverage from SEC Media Days in the Grand Hyatt in downtown Nashville. We look forward to it. We look forward to talking with you guys as well again. Until then, Mo.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.